Institute for Public Policy. Eric?
Hello, and welcome to the Allegheny Institute Report on the Lincoln Institute Radio Journal. I'm Eric Montardi. Joining me today is Frank Gamrat. Frank, we've heard a little bit about a minimum wage proposal as it applies to just the general minimum wage proposals that you usually hear about, but you recently wrote about one that deals with a specific segment of the public sector workforce that was maybe kind of surprising to people to hear that there actually is some sort of minimum wage that exists now and what the proposal would do going forward. So why don't you give our listeners an insight into this recent brief that you wrote about what the governor's proposing for public school teachers?
Absolutely. When the governor released his budget back in February, there was a little section in there called Building the Nation's Strongest Workforce, Attracting and Retaining the Best Teachers for Our Kids. And in it, he references that back in the 1980s, there was legislation that put a minimum on teacher and professional salaries at $18,500 per year. And he wants to raise that to $45,000 per year in 2019-20 going forward. And so, it just got us thinking, well, how much do teachers actually make? And, of course, all this data is available on the state education website. And so we started looking at how much teachers make, and we were surprised to see the range. The lowest amount in this range is Turkey Valley Area School District at $37,400 average a year. Highest is Council Rock out in Montgomery County, I believe, and they're at $99,000 plus per year. So a pretty long range of salaries, average salaries for teachers in that school district. So that just got us kind of wondering, is this even necessary? And if it is, if they push it through, what will this mean for school districts and the taxpayers of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's interesting, Frank, because as we've talked about over the years, the public school teachers are represented by bargaining units, and they bargain with the school districts, and typically what they look at is they say, here's how much the teachers are making in the neighboring district. I don't think they've ever gone back and said, well, here's this minimum wage law that was there in the 1980s. But this proposal, obviously what we're talking about is pushing a wage floor up that would come into play in 2019. And you talked about this range, so basically 33 is a low, 99. So is there an average teacher salary statewide?
Average statewide is $67,535. So that's the average teacher salary across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And these are, of course, public school teachers, K through 12.
Got it. Okay. So let's just look at it in terms of, as you would with any other minimum wage proposal. If you have teachers, or let's say even you had a school district where all the teachers were below the minimum that is proposed, this $45,000, how would that affect them?
Oh, absolutely. Let's get to the real basics of this, and that is, with these public sector contracts, teacher contracts are negotiated by the union. They come in steps. But think of it as a ladder. And at the bottom of the ladder, you have your introductory people, and then over the years, they move up the ladder until they become higher paid teachers. So there's probably not that many teachers earning less than $45,000 a year in this Commonwealth. One union rep in a newspaper article said it's less than 3,000 or around 3,000 teachers. So, okay, let's say a school district only has 3 or 4 people below $45,000 and they decide to give them a raise. Well, it's not just going to affect those 3 teachers. What's going to happen is it's going to reverberate throughout the entire ladder. That is, every other rung will have to be raised incrementally. If one teacher's making $32,000, they would require a $13,000 raise to get them to $45,000. Well, if you've got someone at $43,000, they require a $2,000 raise. Are they going to be happy getting only a $2,000 raise when a colleague got a $13,000 raise? Unlikely. So this is going to squeeze up and push up all of the rungs on the ladder so that everybody receives an incremental raise about the same length to maintain that harmony amongst the steps of the ladder. So you get to that point, and then let's talk about some of the other non-wage costs that would come up with this. Of course, pensions are the biggest deal with school districts right now. We all know that every school district across the Commonwealth is dealing with pension increases, pension payments, because it's an underfunded issue. And so the pension payments are, of course, based on salary. So if you're pushing salary up, eventually you're going to push pension payments up and pension obligations for schools. And then you get into the smaller salary-based perks, things like Social Security taxes, unemployment compensation. All of this will have to be paid by the district based on the salaries of the teachers that they're employing. So it could have a tremendous effect on the budgets of school districts.
Has there been any mention made, like you had talked about, that if the state would change this and you had teachers below, what if the district's like in the middle of a contract? Did they just say like that the next contract you would, again, this is if this thing would pass, that the district would then be mandated to make that lowest step on the ladder at the floor here? Is that what they're saying, or has that been mentioned?
It has